In order to help voters with disabilities, you should know about their needs. Here is a video from Voter Education that shows us great examples of assisting people with disabilities. Let's take a look.
This scenario is not uncommon in many polling places all over the country. A person with a disability shows up at their voting precinct, tries to enter the polling place, but can't. It's not accessible. Can you imagine how frustrating that is? I can. That's why this training is so important. You and your team can make a big difference for me and thousands of voters with disabilities. You can help ensure that we have the right, just like everyone else, to cast a secret ballot independently. In this video, we'll tell you how. One thing I want to mention before we get into it, if you've been a poll worker for years and you've never had a person with a disability come in to vote, don't think this information is irrelevant. The next election, it could happen. And think about this. You could come into contact with someone with a disability at any time. After watching this video, you'll know what to do. Now let's get started. In order to help voters with disabilities, you should know more about our needs. After all, unless you live with a person who has a disability, or you have one yourself, you can't be expected to know how to make voting easier for us. First, I want to share some broad etiquette guidelines that apply to anyone with a disability. This may be obvious, but it's worth bringing to your attention. Voters with disabilities are just regular people. Like me. I have a full-time job, friends, family, a home. I have a normal life, except for mobility issues. Treat me or anyone with a disability with the same respect as you would anyone else. Be compassionate, but don't express pity. Just be helpful. Next guideline, please use people-first language. This means you identify the person first and their disability second. So, for example, I'm a woman with a disability. If a voter is blind, he is a person who is blind, not a blind person. Get the idea? Another guideline, if a person with a disability brings a companion with them, make sure that you address the person with the disability, not their companion. Finally, if a voter with a disability needs assistance, or really any voter, please provide it. Keep these guidelines in mind and you'll make the voting process a lot easier. Now, there are many types of disabilities. We can't list them all here, but we can provide you with general groupings of disabilities and tell you a little bit about each to give you a greater understanding of their needs. These groupings include physical, sensory, and mental disabilities, either mental illness or mental retardation. Let's start with physical disabilities. That's what I have. I have spinal muscular atrophy. I need to use a wheelchair to get around. Whatever the reason someone needs an assistive device for mobility, like a wheelchair, crutches, a walker, or electric scooter, you should be aware of certain things. If they're in a wheelchair, don't lean on it or grab the handles. And if the conversation lasts more than a minute, sit down or squat so you're at eye level. Trust me, it's a lot easier on the neck. The next type of disability is grouped under sensory disabilities. This includes voters who are blind, deaf, have hearing loss, are hard of hearing, and those who are unable to speak or whose speech is incomprehensible. There are varying degrees of blindness. Those with low vision may use special glasses or a monocular. Those who are completely blind may use a cane, a guide dog, or the assistance of a companion. If they need assistance from you, stand beside them and ask them to take your arm. Don't grab theirs. And make sure the path is clear in front of them as they make their way around the polling area. Individuals with hearing loss may wear a hearing aid, or they may bring an interpreter. When they come to vote, first thing, be patient and smile. By facing them directly, they may be able to read your lips. Next, speak clearly and slowly and a little louder. Use appropriate gestures. You may communicate through the interpreter, or write down what you want to say and gesture for the person with the hearing loss to respond the same way. And one more thing. You should have posted instructions for the voting machines in your polling place. Make sure that people with hearing loss can locate them. Again, smile and be patient as you work together to establish a communication system that works. Our last grouping involves people with mental illness or retardation. Individuals with a mental disability may bring along a companion to help them vote. Let them. Again, it's their right. When a voter with a disability arrives at the polling place, it may not be apparent that they have a disability. The best approach? Treat all voters the same and smile. Use appropriate gestures, make eye contact. Write down what you want to say if a voter indicates that they can't communicate through the spoken word. Here's what you need to remember. You can make voting easier and more comfortable for us by ensuring there's an accessible route to the polling place and proper signage that indicates where that route is. You can also help by providing assistance to voters with disabilities and all voters. You and your team can be ambassadors for change and help grow voter turnout for people with disabilities like me. And oh yeah, don't forget to smile. Thank you.
The My Vote centers in Bernalillo County have been chosen because of their accessibility and the proper signage has been placed at the polling location. For specific information about the Voter Assistance Terminal, please refer to the Poll Worker Manual. For further questions, please call the dispatch hotline.